Second part's probably the most interesting to most everybody sitting in here. This is where we're at with the USDA. The industry, which we're a part of, we contributed to, the Racking Horse Breeders Association, the Legal Defense Fund. Industry filed 2 lawsuits on when this rulemaking came out. We were not buried with our heads in the sand to think that they were not going to not get this rulemaking through. We knew they was going to get it through because it was under the Biden administration. They wasn't making the same mistake they made in 16, 17. They weren't going to let this baby rock on to another election. They were going to push it through, and they did. So when that happens, you got options. So the option was, as an industry, we need to sue on the rulemaking, and we did. That case went to Texas. And we filed it simply on the rulemaking. Not simply, because it's not simply anything, but on the rulemaking alone. The second case that was decided that we needed to do something on as an industry was what we commonly refer to as the Wright lawsuit. It involves Michael, it involves all 3 of them, the 3 trainers that are over at Wright Stables. And you say, well, why did the industry pick them instead of some other trainer? Well, this is what we were after. We were after to stay in the 5th Circuit, Federal Circuit Court. 5th. That limits to a couple of states. We needed to have a situation that the plaintiff was involved in that dealt with rear limb inflammation on post-show suspension at a world championship or a multi-day show that caused that animal not to be able to go back and show again. It's a little bit complex, but what we're after was due process, rear leg inflammation, and how do they thought they had the ability to knock that horse out for the rest of the horse show. We searched for a while. We found the Wrights, and they had to agree to be plaintiffs. So they did agree to be plaintiffs. They have their own attorney too, but our attorney took that. Our attorneys, the industry attorneys, took that case also. We don't have a court date on that case yet, so we'll go back to the Texas case. We filed in federal court in Texas against the rulemaking, basically on 5 issues. The reason there were 5, because those are the 5 we thought was the overreach of the USDA APHIS did not have the authority, and you hear a lot of this day when Trump's in the office, did not have the authority as an agency to do something that was not in the Horse Protection Act, which is a congressional bill. So we filed. The last paperwork date on that was December the 20th. December the 20th, December the 9th, and November dates, those were agreed on dates going into this lawsuit from both parties. In other words, the Department of Justice representing the USDA and our attorneys representing the industry and the 2 plaintiffs that we had out there. These hearings aren't in-person hearings. These are hearings and legal questions that are based on law. So we don't go in and we don't testify. We don't call people to the stand. We submit our briefs and our paperwork, and they submit their briefs and their paperwork of why we think they're wrong and why they think they're right. So those deadlines were done. If you remember, the implementation date of the enforcement of this rulemaking was stayed off to February the 1st by the department with an agreement from a federal senator in Tennessee. The only thing that took place in the summer was the HPI. They could hire HPIs and train them. Everything else was held off to February. So going into this, the February date was looming. So going into this, the agreement was with the parties, these are the dates that we're going to hit to file our briefs and our motions, and there'll be no motion for an injunction filed if everybody meets these dates, and then they ask the judge to rule on it by the end of January because of the February start date. All right, so go forward, Trump comes into office, he puts a thing out called a 60-day extension. He said to the agencies, if you've got rulemaking, even though it's final, which ours is, but you want to reconsider this, you got 60 days to open it back up for comments, anything like that. So it got it delayed to April the 2nd. That concerned us, the industry leaders, that it was going to cause the judge not to rule. In other words, he didn't feel the pressure to have to rule because of February. Thank goodness he didn't feel that pressure. He ruled, the first two rulings he did was the government had filed a motion to change the venue. They were trying to pull us out of the field. It's just, be honest about it, that's what was happening. The second motion was filed by HSUS, Humane Society of the United States. This is the one who's driving this whole agenda. And it was for them to be able to intervene in our lawsuit. Common practice in the legal world. The judge, the first ruling he came out and said was he denied both of those. That felt pretty good to us. We felt like, okay, that feels pretty good. He denied their motion to intervene. He denied the motion of the government to transfer or move the case. We at TWEBA, at the executive committee, were able to have a Zoom call with the industry's attorney, one of the attorneys from the industry. Industry's attorneys are very, 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 very good, and that means they're very, 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 very expensive. Attorney General Bill Barr, which was Donald Trump's last Attorney General from the last time he was in, is his law agency, law firm. In that meeting, I was able to ask some questions of our attorney, one of them with a schedule. But in the end, I asked him two simple questions. Now, he didn't think they were simple. Since there's 5 areas, I want you to rank the 5 areas of what you think because his statement was he thought we were going to win part of this lawsuit, and we probably wouldn't win all of it, we'd win part of it. And then that made me ask the question, so do we appeal the part that we don't win? And his answer was, you could, but the Fifth Circuit does not reverse this judge very often because he's a very conservative, very legal-minded, rules on the law. So that led to my next question was, if that's the case, then rank the 5 areas, front, top to bottom, that you think that we can win. Number 1 being the most prevalent that we can win. His first one was the equipment. That's what we call it, pads and chains. The equipment, he thought we could win that. I think we all thought we could win that because you can't take it off one breed of horses and leave it on another breed of horses. We all thought that. Number 2 was the substance ban, which basically goes along with the equipment ban. You know, they had banned walking and racking horses, any equipment, and banned anything from the fetlock down, grease, or anything like that. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3 was DCIS. Everybody asked me what DCIS. That is what they replaced the SCAR rule that they couldn't enforce to start off with a thing called DCIS, dermatological change in skin on your animal makes him sore. I don't know about y'all, but I got a big old bald spot right here, and if I walk out in the hot sun, this sun gun changes dermatologically. It goes red. It was so vague, and they meant for it to be so vague, that they were going to be able to turn our horses down from a dermatological change in their skin color. Well, if you work them, their skin color is going to change a little bit, just like ours does. So he thought that was number 3, and I'm sitting there a little bit bewildered. Number 2 was due process, which is the big part of the Wright lawsuit. And I had to ask him, I said, why do you think due process is next to last? He says, he said, because the industry's never offered them a alternative. I don't remember us ever being asked to offer an alternative, but I didn't say that. I wanted to say that. A little bit of the joppa comes out in me occasionally. The one he didn't think we were going to win was the one we didn't win. That's the inspection process. And if you've ever heard me speak in public about rulemaking, you've always heard me say, if we can't do something with the inspection process, it don't matter what kind of equipment we're left with. We can't get these sapsuckers in. We can't afford to put on a horse show. We can't afford to pay these HPIs. That bothered me, and that's exactly how the judge ruled. We won 4 of the 5 points. The one we lost was the inspection. So what did the judge rule? The judge's basic ruling was what, we got to remember what we sued about. We sued that they didn't have the authority, they being the USDA APHIS, have the authority outside the HBA to change those four things that we won. He agreed they did not have the authority to do that. He did agree that they had the authority to change the inspection process because it was under their venue to do so. Because they started the HIO program, they can change it. So that's where we're at today. If anybody tells you they know what's fixing to happen next, please have them call me, because we want to sign that genius up, because we don't know. Mark Farrer was here last night. Mark, there's a leadership team on the industry. It's two from TWEBA, which is Mark and Amanda, because Amanda's the president. It's a slot. Mark's the CEO. Two from trainers, Billy Young and Spencer Benedict, and two from the celebration, which is Jeffrey Howard and Warren Wells. Those are what we call the leadership group. Everybody else feeds into that. Frank Eichler is an attorney in Cheville, used to own Rising Star. He's a legal advisor to that group. So when I say leadership, that's the leadership group that I'm talking about. We, as of yesterday, are awaiting what the USDA is going to do. And y'all are looking like, why are we waiting on them? Because it's their rule. We won 4 out of the 5, but it's their rule. So what do they do next? Do they withdraw the rule, the part that's left, and start this process over? It's possible. That's an expensive thing for us to start over again. Will they open it up under the Trump 60-day thing, and let's discuss what's left of this rulemaking? And I want to say this, and I'm not knocking any other breeds, but every other breed, and Miss Hannah is in another breed, but every other breed has their reason not to be under this. And I want to tell you, the HBA has always applied to everybody, but it's been the inspection protocol that has got us. Well, in this rulemaking, it spells it out. Every breed is out there. So you take the Western horses. They want to open it back up so that they can say, this ain't for us, we got our own, blah, blah, blah. You need to watch them gated breeds. So when you get to the gated breeds, the trotters want to say, hey, it ain't us. It ain't us. It's them other gated breeds, them saddle breeds. So that puts in the saddle horse and us and everybody else, the Rocky Mountain horses and stuff. So everybody's trying to vie for their spot. Here's the key to this. It's our lawsuit. The judge did not allow an intervention. They can do what they want to, but it's ours. It belongs to the industry. So what's the HSUS is going to do? They're going to try to intervene in what's left of this thing. They're going to bring the PAST Act to this new Congress. If you don't know what the PAST Act is, it is basically exactly what that lawmaking was all about, that rulemaking. And they're going to take it to Congress this year, and they're going to say, this is a new Congress, and the USDA tried to do this, and the federal judge blocked them, so y'all got to do it. And they can do it. Congress can pass the PAST Act, and we're history. Let's just be simplistic about it. We're history. So that's a front we got to fight. We don't know what the USDA is going to do. As soon as we do, we'll get it out to the board. Know who your representatives are. Some things we can put out to the board that we can't put out to the membership. Some things we can put out to the board and the membership. So we'll put it out as soon as we know. Next Saturday in Franklin, Tennessee is a show managers meeting, because the show managers are concerned, and they have a right to be concerned. Where are we at? Well, one part of that rulemaking takes effect now, April the 2nd, which is the inspection side. And if you were on the Zoom call with the USDA back in January, whenever it was, they literally said this. The VMO name that we call Noe, Dr. Noe, She literally said, there was a question, she literally said, if you have a 2-day horse show, this is with the February date, if you have a 2-day horse show and one's January the 31st on one night and the next one's February the 1st, you operate under HIO on Friday night and you operate under RHBAAs on Saturday night. You could only imagine I wanted to raise my hand on that Zoom and say, are you friggin' kidding me? But that's what she answered the question. So that's their mind, that's their thought process. We don't think they got enough HPIs to cover even our horse shows. You're talking 500 to 700 horse shows in our side, but you're talking 5,000 horse shows nationwide that covers all these breeds. In the last report, they said we had 70. They had 70, and they're training them virtually. I bet you can't pick a horse's foot up virtually. So there's not enough. So what are they going to do? We don't know what they're going to do. I will tell you that we're waiting on the Secretary of Agriculture to get confirmed. She's from Texas. And the Undersecretary to be confirmed. He's a judge from West Tennessee. His name is Vaden. I've heard him called everything, but his name is V-A-D-E-N. He is extremely familiar with us. And I'll just leave it at that. He's very familiar with our situation with the USDA. He has been in the USDA before. So that's where we're at with the government. I can't tell you what the next thing is, but I can tell you we're going forward and putting on our horse shows. That's what the meeting next Saturday is about. It's called a show contingency meeting for the show managers to come to Franklin, for us to get up there and say basically what I've just said to you, unless something changes in a week's time, put your shows on. Use your HIOs, get your venues, get your judges, let's go forward. We'll keep you abreast as quick as we can. Is it going to change quickly? It could change very quickly. So you got to be a little bit fluid. You got to be able to move with this thing. I will try to answer any questions. Now, I'm not the rocket scientist out there that's going to tell you what the end result's going to be, because I don't know who that is, but they don't know either. But I'll try to answer any questions I can. We can't live with the inspection process as it's written. Trust me when I tell you that. They took and said the HPIs, horse protection inspectors, are private contractors to the horse shows. We have to work out our contract with them. And this is in the rulemaking. And the industry's okay with that. They're telling Congress. The industry's used to that because they're used to paying inspector fees from little to nothing, $0 to $23,000 for one horse show. Let me think about this a minute. There ain't but one horse show that gets $23,000 worth of inspection fees collected, and that's a walking horse celebration. They failed to mention that it's $15 or $30 a horse. They just said they're used to this. And they tell us what we got to do as a horse show. What areas we got to have, what, climate control we got to have, what we got to pay we got to get these people in here, we got to do all this stuff. But there's no cap to it. So when I say we can't afford it, that's what I mean, we can't afford it. I doubt very seriously there's going to be an HPI somewhere around Shelbyville, because the restriction on the HPI, if you all you got to do is read it and figure out, it ain't going to be us, okay? It's going to be somebody from California that likes trees. Anybody from California in here? Sorry. That's why I say we can't afford it. We got to do something with this inspection process. Something's got to happen. I can't answer what it's going to be happening. Horse and rider cards, yes. Those are the things that TWEBA came up with last year at the request of the leadership group to fund the legal fund. It put $360,000 or $70,000 into that legal fund. So to answer your question, yes, it was a 2-year program, and it will be rolled out again this year because we're still in this fight. We have spent north of $2 million. The industry. North of $2 million. We're not through. Mark told me last night that the Legal Defense Fund is struggling. They have come back to the associations, and when I say the associations, TWEBA, they came back to us last December, asking for more money. TWEBA put another $50,000 in, in 2025. Walking horse trainers put another $50,000 in 2025. The celebration put another $50,000 in 2025. That paid the bills. They've come to us for our second $25,000. To tell you where we're at, the Racking Horse Breeders Board, when we brought this 2 years ago, guys, we needed to be in this fight. This is our horse too. This is where we need to be. We are not big enough to put $50,000 in at a pop, but we did pledge $50,000 total. We paid the $25,000 a year and a half ago. So now they're asking for the other $25,000. I brought it to the board yesterday. The board has okayed the other $25,000, which is sitting in our CD, by the way. Upon another meeting of the board and what we got, where we're going, where we're heading. In other words, we want to, and we pay it, by the way. We don't pay it to another association. We pay legal bills with it. The bill comes to us. Last time Marissa and I had to go to the bank, and you have to wire the money, to the law firm. So we're not paying, it's not going to another association where there's no accountability. We know what we've paid it on. That bill that me and her wired the money on last time was $172,000. We only paid $25,000 of it, but we did pay our part, okay? 1 month. That was 1 month. 1 month. The bill that came in December was almost $400,000 from the law firm. They're very expensive. Now they're very good, but they're very expensive. So the fight's not over. So that's where it is on the lawsuit. Any questions I can answer? The spring and fall show will be in Shelbyville. We will start at 6:30 at the spring show. We'll see how that works. The class sheet should come out, Greg, next week.
Pretty quick.
Pretty quick. It's going to be basically the same class sheet as we showed on last year with a few changes taken out. We added 17 and under speed, took out part pleasure. Basically the same class sheet. The next item on the agenda is new business. This is for y'all. So any member who's a paid member can bring new business to the floor. Any new members out? Any members out there want to bring new business? I don't see anybody. Old business. We don't have any old business, but I can't. Y'all think of something we hadn't done? Let us know. Seeing none, the next one is the best one. Adjournment. I got a motion from Jason to adjourn. He's always the first. Got a second from Greg. All in favor to adjourn, say aye. We adjourn. Thank y'all.